Do you want perfect window tinting in half the time? With over 40 years of experience, we found the best methods to get flawless results quickly and easily. Stick around and I'll show you how. So we're in our academy today, and I've got a standard residential vinyl frame window that I'm going to clean, install, and touch up. I'm going to go through the process. As I'm doing it, I'll kind of explain what I'm doing. There's some key things here that there's a lot of different ways to tint a window. And from other videos we've already put out, we can see all the comments, and I've seen all the other YouTube videos, and I've gone to competitions and seen the hundreds of different ways people can install window film. We know there's other ways to do it. And if you've been doing this for a long time, this video might not be for you because you might have found a way to do it. What we're really trying to do is get to the person who doesn't have a lot of experience, or maybe they just have experience in automotive window tint, and show them the way we found to do it, where we can do it quickly, cleanly, and always come up with a flawless result. And it's easy to teach the next guy how to do. So first we're going to clean our window. Today I'm using the True Spray True System. Again, you can use a squirt bottle, you can use a tint buster, you can use whatever you want. I already know this glass is safe to razor, so I'm going to hit it with a Triumph blade. Always going to make sure that we get our edges really good. I like starting from the top and working down, making sure I'm bringing any type of dirt or debris down the window. I'm always going to get really good into the corners and slice into these edges. This is a really simple window. You might come across other style windows, wood frame, something like that, that would require a little bit different technique. We'll save that for a later video. But with these, you can really slice into these edges. This window was already clean to start, so I don't gotta go crazy. I'm gonna spray it again. This is one spot that I think I differ from my brother a little bit. I like to wipe my edges before I do my initial squeegee, and I like to wipe the entire frame of the window, get any extra moisture or dust or debris that could be on the frame of the window off first. I like adding my extra microfibers to the window seal as I go. I've always got a bucket of clean micros with me. I'm gonna use a microfiber and really push it up into this edge as I clean my edges. I'm always gonna switch to a new clean dry spot as I go to a new pass. I'm gonna wipe the sides. So I did the top and the sides. I can see I still have a little bit of water kind of floating down from this top edge. I'm going to wipe it one more time. The idea for me is I can see that there's nothing in that edge. There's no water floating down. Now I can squeegee. And again, there's several different ways you can squeegee a window. I like actually this method. There are people out there that tell you go pass by pass. You don't necessarily have to do that. Now I did have a spot right here that the water I didn't get, so I'm going to make sure I get that. You don't want to leave any extra water on the window. Anywhere where there's water, there's potential to be dirt. So boom, really quick, easy step to cleaning the window. Always make sure that the edges are nice and dry. The bottom edge doesn't matter as much because it's about to get wet. I'm going to wash that out. So I already have a pattern that I cut on the film handler that's cut almost the size. This is something that I think a lot of people mess up on when they cut patterns out of the box and they cut them too big. Cutting it out of the film handler really helps not have excess film where you're not messing with the walls of the window, around the window. So this pattern is cut pretty close, only about 2 inches wide and about 2 inches too tall. Not only does that make the install process cleaner and faster, it saves film. So over the course of cutting hundreds of patterns of film out of boxes, you're going to save a couple patterns per box. So now I'm going to wet my window. Still not wetting this top edge. It's okay if it gets a little mist, but I'm not soaking it. Make sure the bottom of my window soaked. I like washing this bottom edge out with my sprayer. I'm going to wet the back of my liner. We're doing a drop roll method here. If you don't know what a drop roll is, we're going to show that in other videos. Peel my liner. I'm going to wet this edge. I like rolling out maybe about, I don't know, 10 inches, 12 inches. soak this top section of the film because I didn't wet the top of the window. Water is your friend. Now I'm gonna drop it. So even if you don't get a perfect drop, I didn't slam that one down, so it didn't fully unroll, that's fine. I actually have found, I like using this little guy on the top, and I will go up a little bit, it's not a big deal. I'm sealing the area where I'm going up, and I'm gonna seal this top edge. Using this little squeegee, this is kind of a new tool for me. Always picking up new tips and tricks from other people, but when you've got a window that you really want to set that top edge, you don't want it sliding around, this works great because you can get a lot of pressure and now it's tacked. Now I didn't fully finish rolling out. I'm gonna wet this, grab my liner, hold the top of the pattern so it doesn't come off, pull it down. Now we're completely peeled and on the glass. I'm gonna wet the side of the film. Now I'm gonna hit that top edge again, make sure nothing's sliding or moving. It's not, oh, we're nice and tacked. I'm not going all the way to the edge, but I'm going pretty close. Now I'm gonna set my center line. We always like, and same thing on the bottom, I'm not going all the way down. Now I'm gonna do overlapping patterns to my side, not going all the way to the side. One other comment I know we're gonna get is what squeegee am I using? This squeegee right here is the Blue Beast by True Fusion. I actually haven't used this squeegee too often, and which squeegee you're using doesn't necessarily matter. I actually have 10, 20 different squeegees I can use. I typically actually use an Unger handle with an intruder blade, 6 inches, with either a blue or a red line blade. Something like this. There's a bunch of different squeegees you can use. Today, I'm using this one just because it's a new toy that I wanted to play with. As long as you're pressing hard enough, overlapping your pattern, and getting all the moisture out, that's what really matters. So now I'm ready to cut. I'm always gonna snap my blade, make sure I have a fresh blade. I'm gonna start at my corners. I'm gonna crop this corner out. That way when I tuck it in, it doesn't crease the corner. I'm gonna crop both of these, and to save time, I like to, while I'm down here at the bottom, I've already cropped my corners. I'm gonna tuck this in, and I'm gonna make my bottom cut. I don't like using any kind of card or edge guide. Again, to each their own. There are people that can do it and do it well. I can do it, and in some scenarios I will, but I've gotten really good at knowing what angle to hold my blade at and get a nice, clean, even cut without a huge gap. So I made a cut, I snapped my blade. Go into this top corner, I'm gonna do the same thing, all the way down. Again, a little nuance that you kind of can only get by being in person and doing this is what angle your blade is at. I know using this OFA silver knife and how far out my blade is, exactly what angle to put it at. Again, that is an experience thing. Boom, cut. I'm gonna wet my film again. This is another area where I differ from my brother. Something that I learned from someone else that I like the principle of it. I'm gonna seal my bottom edge, and I'm actually going to squeegee up this whole side. In my opinion, doing this actually, as I'm squeegeeing the water out, it's forcing it up and out, and if there is any contamination or debris that you're squeegeeing down, you're not pushing it down through the rest of your film. For the longest time, I always did go top to bottom, but Brian Teckelberg with Tex Window Tint in Texas, actually, we were talking about this at a panorama convention, and for French panes. When you're dealing with wood French panes, a lot of times you have really dirty edges, and he told me to try it. I did, and I've seen really good results ever since, so I've kind of stuck to it. After you've sealed your edges, I'm gonna hit the whole window with one more pass, really pushing hard now. I know the film's not gonna slide around. And again, always overlap your blade. That way you don't have any excess water. The number one mistake most new tinners will have, where you've got to go back and redo a window, is you left too much water that will not dry. Now you always let your customer know that there's going to be some moisture that pops up as it's drying. That is totally normal. But if you leave too much with certain films, it will not dry. You might get away with some cheaper, thinner films that it'll still dry. but with the quality film we use, it definitely does not dry if you leave too much. So now I'm gonna take a paper towel and a card, dry my edges. Again, with this window being this style, I didn't necessarily need to seal this top edge like crazy right off the jump because I know how clean this window is. If you are working on a window that is dirty, dusty, grimy, old style frame, you just know that it's not gonna, if any water comes down, it's not gonna come down cleanly. You might wanna stop and seal that edge at the beginning. You don't always have to do that. That was one of the other comments I saw on one of the videos that Ricky put out, was people were wondering why he was doing that at the beginning. Sometimes it is necessary for a clean install. And another little contradictory thing to show you that there's tons of ways to skin a cat. I don't necessarily think you have to push straight out when sealing your edge, especially if you're using a card like this instead of a squeegee. As I hit it and slide, it's locking it down. Now, the one thing is you'll see I'm still getting wet spots on my paper towel. That's something I agree with. You do want to keep carding these edges until you know that there's no moisture hitting the edge of the film. It might look good for the moment, but if, say, this is the last window of a job and you don't have time to come around at the end of the job to double check it, water on the edge could start to lift the edge. And last thing you want to have happen is the edge of a window curl up when the sun hits it because there's some moisture on the edge. So, nice cleanly installed window. I'm drying my edges. This is the one part of the install that I use paper towels for. It's the only part really. Again, I know people are gonna say that you can use microfibers for everything, and some people are gonna say you have to use paper towels for everything. To each their own, it works. It's the same concept. You wanna dry the edge. And some people just get preferences after doing this for a long time. I think you can get away with cleaning the window and drying your edges ahead of time with a microfiber. And in my opinion, it actually works even better. I got a little moisture spot right here that's pushed right out. This is the step that's most neglected in my mind. No matter how good you are, as you're cutting and laying stuff down, you might have a little edge that just doesn't want to stick. Taking the time on your first pass to really make sure everything is down and dried out is worth it in my mind. Again, if you're on a job where you're tinting a whole house or a whole building, the last step we're gonna do is go back and double check every window. But if you can do it while you're on it, good, you're good to go. Now, I haven't tinted this window yet. In a real world scenario, I wouldn't clean this window yet because I'm gonna tint this window, which means I'm probably gonna get some overspray on this window. Once both windows are done and dried and good to go, I'm gonna wipe them off and walk away. Again, you can get in a scenario where you have a crew of guys where the installer is just installing and the apprentice or prepper is cleaning windows ahead of you. You install the windows, go to the next window, that person comes around and cleans them all at the end. That's another way that we get more efficient doing it at scale. But if it's just you by yourself, I like finish the windows you're in front of, clean them, go to the next ones, you don't gotta come back. You can always come back and check them when you're done, but there's a lot of ways to skin a cat when it comes to window tint, and this is how I like to do it. This is what we've learned in 40 years that matters. Big takeaways. Don't wet that top edge when you're tinting. If you can, use a film handler and cut your patterns in a way that you can have a factory top edge. I see a lot of people still cutting their top edge. You can do it, you can get away with it, but the likelihood that you get some dirt in your top edge because you're doing that is high. Again, certain window frames are really clean, you can get away with it, but in my opinion, factory top edge, seal it, squeegee as much moisture out as possible. Second pass squeegee, as my dad liked to say, double, triple squeegee. It was funny, that was like the #1 thing he would harp on us on, is go back and re-squeegee the window. I didn't understand how important it was back then, but now that I've got a crew of guys, the #1 thing we've had to go back and fix is windows that there's too much moisture left in them and it didn't dry. So don't make that mistake. All right, so that's tinting a window flawlessly, quickly, how we've learned how to do it over 40 years. If you liked this video and you want to see more, please subscribe, follow along. Give me some comments and feedback below. I know there's a lot of ways to do this. And again, if you're on YouTube looking at window tint videos, there's 50 different ways to do it just on YouTube. and there's probably hundreds of ways to do it. This is what we found worked well. We've now won the International Window Film Competition 5 times. My brother's won it 4 times. I've won it once. That's a competition that is a timed event that's based off of quality of install. So you have to be able to do it fast enough, and then the end result needs to be flawless. And that's against all the top tinners in the world. So we do know what we're doing, and we do understand that there's a lot of ways to do this. But if you want to see more from us, subscribe.